course. We can get started whenever you're ready, Pam.
Okay.
And fine. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Zoe, I'm from Resources. And I help with the aquatic preserves at the Philadelphia Bay and Cherry Point. I do some bird surveys, and some folks who attend those surveys have expressed interest in learning a little bit more about marine birds. So Pam has graciously offered to teach this class and give us a little insight on marine birds in the Salish Sea.
Okay. Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here. I'll just give you a little bit of background. This originally was designed for a class on for our area. Resources is a nonprofit organization in Washington County and Bellingham. And through them, we started doing surveys of the Cherry Point area. And one of the reasons that we did that was because they were going to put a coal port there. And we used the same protocol that John Bauer of Western Washington University used in his surveys. And he surveyed this whole area. I'm sure he was in Skagit County too, with his students in the early 2000s, and used the same protocol as the MESA studies from the 70s.
The what?
The MESA studies, M-E-S-A. From the 70s.
The what study?
MESA, M-E-S-A, MESA studies. And so it's the same protocol. And so he put that together and did bird surveys with his students in the early 2000s, and then discontinued those. And then when the coal port came in, Resources wanted us to, and with the Audubon, North Cascades, wanted us to start a baseline of the birds that were there in the area, so that they would know if the coal port got, built, what the effect would be on the birds in the area. We only have 3 points that we study. We picked 3 points, and originally we picked 12 birds. That's all we did, because it was just a little fledgling group. And it's gotten stronger. It's been going now for 15 years or so. And we expanded the number of birds, but primarily they're marine birds. And then this program I added to, because our community boating center has boaters, and they wanted more pelagic birds included. So I did that. So I don't have basically any shorebirds. I have one, but basically no shorebirds. Okay. So let's see. So I'm just going to acknowledge that we live and work on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, the Lummi Nation and Nooksack tribe, also Semiahmoo, and I don't know what your.
Yeah, Swinomish and Samish.
Okay, Swinomish and Samish are here, and we're all still living on these, and acknowledge and support their treaty rights and express gratitude for their enduring care and protection of the lands and waterways. Now, did you say this is on Zoom?
Yes, it's just
Okay.
on my computer.
All right, so this event is being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, so please mute your microphone and turn off your camera, which will extend our bandwidth. To ask any questions or make comments, click on the chat and type your question to everyone, and I'll stop periodically to answer some questions. And I guess you'll monitor the chat.
Yeah, I might.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to show you some pretty pictures here. Here's a pigeon guillemot in breeding plumage. And here is a horned grebe in breeding plumage. We won't see them like this because they usually migrate, and then as they're migrating, they get into breeding plumage. We'll see later what they look like. Here's a Bonaparte's gull in non-breeding Here's a beautiful Harlequin duck. And they're quite stunning. A Western grebe. A Heerman's gull. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about some statistics over the last 50 years. We have lost 3 billion birds in North America over the last 50 years. The bald eagles have made, and the trumpeter swans made a spectacular comeback because they stopped spraying DDT. The DDT would weaken their eggs, so when they tried to incubate, the eggs would break and they would have failure. Harlequin ducks have increased. However, common golden eyes are down by 47%, surf scoters 60%, brant 73%. Loon is up again because of the eggs, and the western grebe is down by 81%. Now we don't know if the grebes have just moved someplace else or if they're just gone, because and it's hard with birds because they move around and have to accommodate themselves, and they have to accommodate to a lot of things. They have to accommodate to habitat loss, climate change. Those are two big things that birds are accommodating to right now.
And if it was food, loons and western grebes tend to eat some of the same thing.
Fish.
Okay.
And this program that I'm doing right now is recorded on our website. So you can go and look at it anytime. North Cascades Audubon.org. And there are other recorded programs. There are other classes that we've given that are there too. So when we look at trying to identify birds, there are some basic tips. General, you want to look at the body shape or the silhouette. Pardon me, I've got a morning frog. And the silhouette will give you more detail than seeing the color will, especially in the wintertime. Really be able to look at the bill, it really narrows it down. This is just general bird ID. And then specifically, you want to look for patterns, light and dark areas, and then lastly, colors. Again, one of the things that's important about birds is their relative size. If you see a black bird out on the water, it's really hard to tell what it is if there's not another bird next to it. Yes.
What was the order in which that you said to look? The body type, the bill?
Yeah.
The body, shape, and silhouette. And the bill, the head.
Patterns.
Yeah, patterns, the light and dark areas, especially in wintertime. I'm going to concentrate mostly on winter birds here because these are the birds we see in the winter because they are breeding someplace else. They're migratory. And then lastly, the color. Again, the relative size. If you don't have something to compare it to, you can't really tell what it is. But if you take a look at these, you know what a mallard is, what size a mallard is. And a bubblehead is our smallest diving duck. And so you can kind of see their relative size. So you want to look at the silhouette, pardon me, the general shape of the bird. How does the bird hold its head? Thanks. How thick or long is the bill compared to the head? That gives you a lot of insight. How thick or long is its neck? How slim or chunky is the body? You can narrow down a lot by that. If you can see the tail, how long is the tail? So here's a good example of a bird that holds its head kind of up. There are a couple of them out there that do that. This is a double breasted. And here's a chunky body bird. It's not slim like a western grebe. It's very thick. So then you look at patterns. Has a lot of the bufflehead has a lot of white on it. And then also, I'm not gonna talk too much about the parts of the bird, but it's good to get yourself familiar with the breast, the flank, the speculum. That can tell you a whole lot about a bird. The head and the head patterns on the head. The rump can tell you a lot about a bird. And if you look at the tail, it's not always the tail of the bird. It's the wings folded, and it's the ends of the wingtips that are sticking out. Lots of times that you're seeing, not the tail. So you've got to kind of be mindful of those things. Here's a double-crested cormorant in breeding. Notice that orange gular pouch, and that big bill with a hook on the end.
Pretty high.
They're fish eaters.
Are their eyes green year round?
Not necessarily. I think this is breeding plumage, and you can see just the few feathers that are right here on its head. Later on, you'll be able to see why it's called a double-crested cormorant, because they display. These are the resources that we've used. Pardon me, the Sibley Field Guide, National Geographic Peterson. The Peterson guide, original guide, has the silhouettes inside of the front and back covers. And those are the things that I study quite a bit. All About Birds, Wikipedia, the library, the National Audubon website, Cornell Lab, and phone apps. I was just sharing with the people here before we started the Sibley app, which costs money. The Merlin Bird ID and the Audubon are free. The Sibley Bird has a feature on it where you can compare two birds. And it also has, on some phones, not on mine, but it has a feature that will show you similar birds to what you're looking at. So the first thing we're going to study are loons and females. This is the smallest loon. The red-throated loon is about 24 to 27 inches, 3 pounds. They breed in low tundra wetlands, bogs, and ponds in migration. They stage on large lakes. They winter in relatively shallow, sheltered marine habitat, which is what we have. So they're going to winter here. And so we see them in winter plumage, which is on the left. They generally hold their bill at an upturned angle, unlike the other loons. But you can distinguish it pretty easily from a cormorant because it's that white line. It has mostly a white neck with a diffuse border at the back. And so the breeding plumage we don't often see, but the shaded winter plumage is what we mostly see here. And you can see that in this. So they have a more pointed and much thinner bill than a common or even Pacific. They have a lot of white.
They're the ones that tend to fly back and forth through the Central Pass.
Yeah, I think that's the only place. I think the likelihood of us seeing one on our survey
Is there?
very low.
The other thing that they do is they're not up often, and when they go down, they travel a long way underwater and come up. Not where you expect them.
So is the red the male?
We have them now
Well,
on
no, male and
Burroughs
female.
Bay.
Oh, well,
Yeah, they're
Burroughs
not.
Bay.
Okay.
Yeah,
On Burroughs, there are red-throated loons right now.
they.
Well, where?
Burroughs Bay,
Yeah, but I mean,
well, I'm at this point.
you're seeing red-throated lizard. I gotta get in that guy.
Come in, we're right by the great big,
That erratic.
erratic, yeah.
Yep, I'll kayak over there.
So the males and females in breeding plumage and non-breeding plumage are the same. There's
Yeah.
not a distinction. The same thing with the Pacific loon. Pacific loon is pretty stunning. And
Oh, they're
these, you can see them, if you have a boat, you can see them in summer.
Yeah.
And you can see them in breeding.
in the San Juans.
Yes,
When you see them in breeding plumage, they're just
yeah. I've been on a boat on the other side of Lummi Island and be able to see them in the summer. In the winter, you can see that they're, again, a study of gray or black and white. And they have a very distinct line from the white to the black on their neck. They also have a little chin strap.
If you can. spot it.
It's very, it's tough to see, but if you look in your book, Sibley will tell you that it's got a little chin strap. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. In breeding plumage, you see they have eyeballs. They have a little white.
Yeah.
Bobble there. They do, they eat fish and aquatic invertebrates. They winter here. And again, they breed in freshwater tundra lakes. The birds that breed in the freshwater tundra lakes are at huge risk now because of climate change. The tundra up there is thawing, and there's a lot of saltwater incursion in those freshwater lakes. So they're not being able to find places to breed as easily. And then a common loon. So these other ones you see are like 2 to 3 pounds. Common loon is 6 to 13 pounds. It is huge. It's like a big, beamy tugboat.
Those are the ones we have.
They sit low in the water. They're enormous. They have a white breast. They have this thick, dagger-like bill, thick neck, and a stout bill. They have a 3 to 5 foot wingspan. They're 30 inches long. They're enormous. So if you see them out there next to another bird, you can pretty well tell them. They're low-bodied, usually alone and evenly spaced. They don't bunch up like scoters. The legs are set so far back on their body that they cannot walk on land. They will sometimes be flying over a parking lot that has water on it, and they will land on the parking lot, and they are trapped there. They can't take off from land. They have to have water to take off. So if you see a loon in your parking lot, call somebody or bring a big blanket.
So is the red-throated call similar to the common?
I don't think so. But
So I heard the common, what I thought was a common one, because I know that
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
having lived on a pond where they breed red.
So the red-throated,
Nothing like it.
Very different.
I think they're making strong.
That's what the guy was getting a cat.
this is like,
Is that record loon?
yeah. So, yeah, so they're different. Thank you for asking. I never have compared them.
You must have heard a common then.
Yeah, and so you can see their breeding areas way north in the Arctic and in the tundra.
And yet they're doing very well.
They also breed on inland ponds and lakes, small lakes
Oh,
in eastern Washington
okay,
and British Columbia and eastern Oregon.
okay.
So this is what they look like in breeding plumage. And around where I go, which is Semyon Bay, Drayton Harbor, Larrabee, and Boundary Bay and Bellingham Bay, some of the first year males will hang out all year and be there, so you'll get to see them in breeding plumage. But they start to turn in March, right before they migrate. So, and this is what they look like in non-breeding plumage. So they're a diver, and they're found on open water. You'll never see them sitting on land. They generally eat fish. They also will eat crustaceans and mollusks. They're extremely adapted for diving lifestyle. They're unable to walk on land. So they have very large feet and toes spread wide to act as paddles. So they basically kind of swim underwater. They also have, there's a couple of other things that are at their advantage. They're one of the only birds that have solid bones. So that's why they're so heavy.
That's what it's.
And the other thing that they can do is they can fluff their feathers out and capture air in their feathers to make them buoyant. But they're so low, all they have to do is compress their feathers and they can sink the dive. They don't have to jump up and down like the other birds do.
Interesting.
And so
They do it by compressing their feathers
compressing
and
the feathers.
losing the air.
Yeah, pushing the air out so their heavy body just pulls them down. So they appear under the water. Lots of times you'll see this body without a head, just motoring around on top of the surface. And then they dive 2 to 3 minutes. They can dive up to 250 feet. They can take inches. And crustaceans, amphibians, insects, leeches, and some plants.
We've seen them take clams.
Yeah,
Oh, I bet.
they'll do that too. So they have a dagger-like bill. It's enormous. It's enormous. Very low in the water, big body, a sudden forehead. You see how it kind of goes up, and a flattish kind of head. And they've got this W pattern on their neck. It's a diffuse boundary. It goes in and comes back out. And here you can see them all three together. So the common loon you see has that diffuse kind of W with a huge dagger. The red-throated loon, you can tell which one it is because its bill is slightly upturned.
And the
And it has
eye
all
is
the white. The eyes in the white, and it has a lot of white on its neck.
I'm not seeing the W.
Yeah, I wasn't either, but I finally
Well,
got
it
it on the
looks,
side.
it's on the side of the loon.
Got it.
It
Yeah.
goes in and then there's a point that comes out
Okay.
and then more white that goes in. Take a look at your books.
Okay.
And go to any of the resources, Cornell, Audubon, the website, and just take a look at
I've
some.
never seen one in person, I just.
Oh, and then if you go to Google and then put the images on, loon and winter plumage, then you'll be able to compare a bunch of them. The bottom one is the Pacific loon compared to a common loon.
Yeah,
You can see the common loon has that jagged on the side of its head. The Pacific loon has the white distinct boundary and the neck
and that's a common loon behind the
behind
two.
two common loons. Yeah, you can tell by the bill.
Right.
And
Makes
this,
it look so easy.
and this is why it's important to look at their silhouette and not their colors. And why you look at the patterns of colors. If it's mostly white, it's probably not a common loon and kind of delicate. If it's, got a huge bill and sits low in the water, it's probably. The other one that's quite large and sits very low in the water is a double-crested cormorant. They're even a little larger than a loon. They're longer. They're not as thick, but they do sit down in the water. But they have a dark body, and the loon always has a white breast. The light breast on the double-crested cormorant is the first year hatchling. They're brown. You can see the first year, but it's got a thick bill, but it has that orange blue out, and it has the lighter chest, and it's brown. An adult is black, and you often see them standing around someplace with their wings up. This is how they dry their wings and thermoregulate. They do not have, so at the base of most water birds' tail, there's a gland, an oil gland called an arpeggio. And it holds waterproof oil, and you'll see, especially dabbling ducks, messing around at the base of their tail. They get some of that oil on their bill and they rub it on their feathers, and therein is the water. It's like water off the duck's back. It's because of that oil repels the water. The glands in the cormorants are not as developed, and so they often have to dry their wings. They also do this in the summer, like I said, to thermoregulate. So this is a juvenile in the water. It's got a turquoise eye. It's
Do you
got
think,
orange.
do you think this one is a juvenile?
Uh, I don't think so. I think it's too dark. Their head and their neck are very, very light. You do coast survey.
That was forage fishing.
Oh.
I just saw.
Yeah, I do coastal surveys, so
We
I
used to.
see all the dead birds out there. It's kind of fun to figure out which bird is from, a flipper. But the cormorant also swims low in the water, but the bill is hooked. So if you can get a look at the bill, you can distinguish, and the front of it, and the head, which is orange, you can distinguish it from a common bird, which is what you're going to most likely confuse it with. They feed on fish, amphibians, crustaceans. So they nest and roost in colonies. One of the largest colonies north of the Columbia River is the Blaine Breakwater. If you want to go up there and see nesting cormorants in the summer, there are hundreds of them up there, and you can see the whitewash on the rock, and they nest in these big chimneys. They're really kind of interesting. But by and large, the adults are black.
Is a chimney something in the rock?
No, it's something they build with their feces.
Oh, okay.
So the
And
white breast is the first year, did you say?
it's lighter. It's not white. It's tan.
Yeah, it's pretty noticeable.
Yeah, and they're brown. They're a brown bird. And
Yes.
loons are gray or black.
We live by Williamson Rocks, it's a huge cormorant
Okay,
nesting.
okay.
How do you live near Williamson Rocks?
But
How do you live near Williamson Rocks? Are you on the boat?
right across the river.
Is that double breasted?
Yes, the new dog.
Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah. Now the other cormorant we have is a pelagic cormorant. It is smaller. It's much smaller. It has a much more delicate body and bill. It's got a pencil thin neck, pencil thin bill, and when they're flying, you can really tell them very differently from double crested. They're also always this greenish blue, black. It's not the color of the feather, but it's the structure of the feather. Just as we have no blue feathers in nature, there's no bird that has a blue feather from pigment. It's all from the structure of the feather and the reflection of the light structure. So in non-breeding plumage, they lighten up a bit, but in breeding plumage, they're very dark and they have red skin at the base of their neck. And they have a white patch on their flank. You can tell they're inbreeding.
How long do they keep those features?
From probably April or May to probably September, because most birds' pattern in terms of molt is they breed and then they molt right after they breed. And the passerines molt a feather at a time. The daddling ducks will molt all their primary feathers, so they can't fly for about 2 weeks. They go find a pond someplace where it's safe, and they just sit there and hang out and eat and lose feathers and grow new feathers. So
If you want to see them in Anacortes, it's down the old part of town, Secret Cove, the little restaurant. Beside, there's a private state, boat thing. There's old pilots there and they nest there. They're always
The
there.
pelagic.
The pelagic.
yes, the
They're
pelagic
always
cormorants,
at the ferry terminal too.
Oh,
When it
right.
opens.
right? They're at the Anacortes Ferry Terminal. They used to nest in the pilings, but they've put grates over that now. So if they're nesting someplace else, and this is,
It's the dolphins, you're right, that's where they are.
yeah,
And
they
what
Like
is it?
Secret Cove,
Secret Cove?
yeah, there's a lot of them, probably 30 to 50 of them.
they nest in the wild on cliffs generally. So those ledges are perfect for them because they just lay an egg in there, which is generally has a point at one end so that it will roll around in a circle if you want, so it won't fall out of the nest because Their their nests are really dicey. They're smaller, they're black with a green iridescent sheen. They have a shorter tail. They feed on fish, crustaceans, and other invertebrates. Up at Semiyama, they both hang out on a dock there, so you're able to compare them.
Oh, nice.
So it's very nice to go there and see them. They're
The pelagic and the.
double crested, yeah. They're both on the Blaine Pier, and they're also on the dock there at the Semyon Marina. So
Does the white patch disappear in the winter?
yes,
Dang it.
that's only breeding. Right. So what you'll use for them is that very thin, that pencil thin bill and that pencil thin neck.
Is it often pointing upward?
Their head,
Probably.
their head is.
Yeah, more than, yeah, like the double crested. Yeah. But you can tell if I go back a little bit here. There's the
Yeah.
double crested, but you see how thick its neck is?
Yeah.
And you see the color of its bill and how big it is. And then here you go, much thinner bill, much thinner neck. Any questions on those studies? The next ones we're gonna look at are grebes.
Congrats.
We'll get to them.
Okay.
I've kind of put them together in taxonomically like the books. So, the first one we'll look at is the Western grebe, and here's its range. They winter in coastal BC and along the US. They're non-breeding resident populations found from late September to April. And this is during our survey times. So the detection of grebes from threats on their ocean wintering grounds is complex. Since we don't know exactly where their nesting colonies are, it's difficult to determine the effects of mortality on nesting colonies. Much of the research of Western grebes has been made at their breeding marshes. Far less is known about the grebes on the Pacific Coast wintering grounds. Population trends, interests, bird counts, data collected by volunteer bird watchers are equivocal depending upon, where they're censusing the population. In Bellingham Bay in the 70s, there were 10,000 Western grebes. 10,000.
Yeah.
And now you're lucky to see 10.
I don't think I've been working through the data for Hidalgo Bay Aquatic Reserve. I don't think there's ever been a single Western grebe spotted over the past 8 years that we've been surveying.
And where was that?
In Hidalgo Bay Aquatic
Yeah,
Reserve.
we see them in Burroughs Bay, but we used to, when we moved here 25 years ago, rafts.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
would have been hundreds at a minute.
Yeah.
Same in San Juan, used to be so. What on earth are they doing in the middle of Mexico?
Well, they're a permanent resident, so they're living there.
What?
Why not? I mean,
Because that's,
there's a lot
isn't
of-
that the Sierra Madre Mountains?
well, there's a lot of ponds there. They can live in ponds. If there's fish and rivers, they can make a living there.
So they must go further south also, perhaps.
It looks like that's their range.
I mean,
Mexico.
South America.
Mhm. I think they would, they might, but I think this is their primary range. So this is a fun, to be able to hear this. The Clark Street.
Yeah.
The eyes. Eat each other's feathers.
I've seen this.
in person.
I never know how she said. Pretty amazing. You were nice.
And he's still alive. So these are Western birds. See, the white does not go above the
Oh,
eye.
I missed it, darn, okay.
So they splice together two different,
No,
And were they even different species
yeah, the first,
back then?
yeah, the
When he was
first,
filming?
yeah, the first, um, film was a Clark screen. And the second part of the film was a Western. And so I've never seen this. A friend of mine has seen this in the lakes of eastern Oregon at Malheur.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen this happen. I'd love to see this happen. But so what they eat are herring, insects, small crustaceans, and aquatic plants, and they dive. And you can see they have a very long yellow bill, a very long neck, and it's really elegant. To me, they're one of the most elegant birds.
And a beautiful color.
I've not heard a Western green call. Their diving behavior, they go up and then go down. However, and they generally don't hang out much together, much more than duets, But when they rest, they float. They look like little donuts, and so you can tell what they are just by them floating. So the lookalike is a Clark screen, and you can see there.
what's the status of the Clark screen?
I'm not really sure. Find out real quick.
It's like the breeding ranges.
Yes.
I'm seeing you.
It says they have a fairly small population, 10 to 20,000. It doesn't show disability. And its conservation rating is least concern.
Oh,
Really?
So, well,
yeah. They always. seem to say.
So,
So can you just, go and compare the Clark and the Western in terms of the distinguishing between?
yeah, so the Clark screen, you notice the weight on its neck goes above the eye. And so it looks like it kind of has a crack and and then it goes down the back of the neck. But the Western,
You see the eye is in the point.
yeah. So here's a Western breed. You notice that the black goes below the eye.
Okay.
And if you see, this is a Clark screen because the white is above it. The next one we're going to look at is the horned grebe. It's one of our smallest grebes. And in breeding plumage, it does not look like it does in non-plumage. You can see in breeding plumage, it's just stunning. And in non-breeding plumage, you've got this little short bill. And it's kind of dark body. It's sort of, to me, it looks like they're very cute. So this is how I distinguish them from redneck breeds. From western breeds, which are elegant, redneck breeds are thick and high-billed breeds have that little short stubby bill. But this guy has a lot of white on the cheek and it doesn't go above the eye. But it goes so far around the back of the neck that when you see them swimming away from you, it looks like a woman's stocking seam. Now, you ladies know what I'm talking about. You may know. So when we were growing up, we wore stockings and they had seams in the back that held them together, and you had to make sure your seam was straight. I don't know if you guys are ever had those.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like a little pillow with a little short neck and a lot of white and a little stubby bill. So the bill, if you were to put it inside the head, it would be small. One of the ways to look at these in terms of identifying. And then the rednecked breed is thicker, it's bigger. It is a very thick, long, yellowish kind of bill. We don't see them in breeding plumage, we see them in non-breeding plumage, which is the one on the right. And it's very dusky, muddy, dirty looking kind of, and thick. It's just got a very stout body, neck, and bill compared to the orange green and the western. So if you go out there and you look out there and you see this kind of thick looking bird, and they stay down, they are down all the time. I mean, they'll stay up if they're preening, they'll stay up a little bit, but mostly they're down all the time. They're down and down.
Looks like there's a bit of yellow on the bill.
Yeah, at the base of the bill in the picture. In the summer, they're
What makes a grebe a grebe?
well, one of the things that they have, well, the DNA for one thing, but they're like balloons. The legs on their body are set very far back on the body. They can't walk either. They make floating nests attached to reeds. And they crawl up in the nest and incubate, and then they're into the water. And then if you look at these and compare it, here's a horned grebe and a redneck grebe. You can see the horned grebe is really cute, and the redneck grebe looks not.
And the horned grebe has a red eye.
It has a red eye, it has a white, but you know, when you're looking that far out,
You can't see.
you're gonna look at the silhouette. You're
You're
gonna see
right,
this
you're right.
little stubby bill, this kind of round, cute head, and this little pillow of a body. The redneck grebe is just, thick, it's just a lot thicker. It's very strange to do this, but so in here you can look at a redneck grebe compared to a western. And they're kind of in the same shape, but you can look at the size of the bill on the western. It is enormous. It is bigger than the head is. On the redneck grebe, it's about the same size as the head. And on the horned grebe, it's much smaller. It's- And here are all three.
All right, let's.
And you can see that the western grebe is not only thin, but it's slightly upturned.
Needlish.
Yeah, it's very needlish. The redneck grebe is thick, and the horned grebe has got more white on it. The smaller bird is more white. The western grebe definitely. Again, this is on our web page, so if you want to go and get this, you can do that on our recordings. Here's a pie-bill grebe. They're mostly on freshwater, but we get them at the Semi-Elmo Marina in the wintertime, and we get pairs of them. In breeding, they have that ring around their bill, and non-breeding, they're brown. Short.
And they're short overall.
Yes, 12 to 15 inches there. It says the diet of the western grebe appears to consist mainly of fish. G.E. Lawrence in 1950 found reef stomachs contained 81% fish, 17% insects, 2% plants. Reefs can spend up to a minute or more below the surface. The species feeds in scattered singles, at least 200 feet of open water between individuals, and then join in groups when they in the water, which is why there's been the morning feeding begins when there's enough light to allow for good underwater visibility. They dive underwater and swallow most of their food while underwater. They can stay underwater for over a minute, mainly catching the fish by diving out of water. They either spear prey or capture it with a forceps-like motion of the bill, taking larger prey items to the surface before swallowing. You may see them bring the prey up and throw it up in the air to put it headed the right way so they can swallow it. They also occasionally consume bottom-dwelling crustaceans. Okay, any questions about the reefs?
No, it would be great to have a slide where you have the greaves and the loons, like, all together,
Right.
pointing to the first thing you should look at. I mean, silhouettes is usually
Right.
what helps me,
Yeah.
but with
Yeah.
these, some of them are.
Right, and the reefs are just overall smaller than the loons.
Mhm.
But again, it's hard to tell that relative stuff. So now we're gonna look at geese. Our Canada goose, of course, 25 to 45 inches, enormous. The geese are dabblers, so they will upend and feed on the bottom. They breed in Arctic of the southern US. They were, before we made them such nice habitats like lakes, they were migrants, they were migratory birds. But now that there are lakes and ponds and everything else with grass around, they just stay because they can't. They have a lighter breast, a brown back, all black neck with a white cheek and throat. They feed on grass and sedges, including skunk cabbage leaves and eelgrass. During fall and winter, they're more likely to rely on berries and seeds and agricultural grains. I didn't address cackling geese. And the cackling
During
geese
migration.
are, overall smaller, and they have a darker breast than the other ones that we have, pretty big numbers of our brain. And these are cute little geese that have a beautiful necklace. They have white butts. They nest in the far north in Siberia. To me, they're cute. So if you look out there and you see a cute goose, instead of an ugly goose, that's the Canada and the cackling versus the brain.
And that is something we will see in the way.
You have right. So the other thing is when you see brant flying, they fly like a necklace. So they're in this very loose pattern, and they'll be going like this. It's like a flying necklace. I mean, you can't imagine it until you see it and think about it. But when I'm out with folks and they're flying, I say, those are brant. Look, it's like a necklace that's flying. They kind of go up and down like this. I mean, it's very interesting.
So one at a time?
No, the whole, so you got, 10 of them out there and they're just sort of going like this. And they look like they're a loose necklace that could be flying. It's just an odd thing that I picked up and people go, oh yeah. So the thing about brant is that they breed in the coastal tundra in Arctic and Siberia. And so they're up in the yellow, green breeding, but in yellow they're in migration. And the single most critical fall staging habitat is near the tip of the Alaska Peninsula at the Eisenbeck Lagoon. Nearly the entire world population of black brants spend as long as 9 weeks there, feeding on the eelgrass. eelgrass is as much as 99% of their diet through this period. Nearly all the birds leave within the same 12-hour period and arrive at their winter destination 60 to 90 hours later.
Is that the only place they have eelgrass?
That's where they have big bunches of it and they stay there. What's happening right now and has been happening for the last 20 years is they want to build a road to here. And so if you are at all an activist or you have any way to mobilize your friends, have them write to your Congress people and tell them they don't need a road there. They need to preserve that habitat because it's so vital to the brand. Some of them will come down along the coast and some will here, I'll show you the next. Some will come down along the coast and some will go straight across to the northern Vancouver Island. But they're
90% go through.
Eisenberg. And it's interesting, if you can imagine, so they eat eelgrass, that's their main diet. Can you imagine not having hands and trying to eat spaghetti and you can't suck, but they don't suck. So what they do with eelgrass is they fold it with their tongue into little accordions, into a little packet that's about a quarter inch or a half inch by a quarter inch. That's wide as the eelgrass is. And then they swallow those. Oh, that's how they eat.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
of course
fun
they
fact.
get, yeah, of course they get what's on the eelgrass, which often is roe, often is crustaceans and little analogs.
Yeah. Proteins.
Yeah. And some mollusks, they are dabbler. And so they, like a lot of these ducks, gizzard. No, these ducks digest their food. Which is why we have such a problem with swans.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Could you just, kind of define the categories, what there's dabbling, is it diving?
Yeah.
Just,
Dabbling and diving.
okay,
Dabblers don't dive. They upend like
Okay.
this.
all right, yeah,
And the dabblers that we have around here are pintails, widgeon, mallards, yeah,
Green teal.
green wing teal, yeah.
Are foods considered dabblers or?
They don't upend. They dive a little bit. Diving ducks, I mean, they dive down in the water 30
Yeah.
feet, 50 feet. The loons 250 feet. The long-tailed ducks up to 250 feet. So
and is that because of what level they're eating at?
Yeah.
The divers
Yeah.
eat lower on
Yeah.
the physical floor.
So any other questions about these? Swans are dabblers too. You see them up in there with their big white butts in the air. And of course, they are ingesting lead pellets in the bottom of the ponds. Lead poisoning.
Oh, nice.
And that's why you can see them staggering around in the fields. It is being used in upland birds. Not being used for water birds, but it should not be being used for any bird.
So we're not gonna see snow because they're not on water.
Yeah, no, they're on water.
We might see.
Oh, yeah. And I don't have snow geese in here. That's because this is design, we don't have snow geese in water. But I can put that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're all.
There are
over
big
sea.
rafts down off of Fur Island, down at Wiley, and.
Not this year. They didn't come. They came and left.
Oh,
The snow geese?
Yeah.
I saw big bunch of some. Are they on?
It's been a thing. They haven't been seen.
That's a big flyway, isn't it, that for Island,
Yeah.
big hill.
yeah, and what's the other one? Hayden Preserve. They're down there, and if you go walk out there, you can see them out of the bay. I've seen them. I saw them last year. I haven't seen them this year. I can go down. So,
It seems over the years that the swans have been increasing as a percentage of the snow geese.
mhm.
Well, field after the, Snow Goose Preserve, or Snow Goose. Cruise, there's nothing.
Really?
Well, I saw huge numbers of them earlier. But then, when they start shooting them,
Mhm.
I
They move.
think,
They're smarter than you might think.
I think hunting season ended, what, January 31st?
Maybe.
No, they're hunting this morning.
Okay, everything except for snow geese ended January 31st. They're still hunting snow geese.
I would think.
So,
Because they have a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's generally in Skagit Valley, there's generally 70,000, 80,000.
And you're right, there are a lot more swans, I've noticed.
well,
The eyes.
a lot of the snow geese are out in the water.
And what's the rarer swan that sometimes?
Trumpeter?
Well, there's the trumpeter is the most common. Tundra is the next most common, and it has yellow on the bill. And the next one is the Hooper swan. Hooper, WHOO. And they have a lot of yellow bill. We had one up at Sumas. Everybody was, going in there to look at. And those are the ones that we don't. Butte swans. They have a big knob on it.
And then there's the sandhill crane that's hanging out with the swans.
Right.
Oh,
Really?
So what's the largest
Where-
swan?
It's up
Trumpeter.
The trumpeter.
up
They are
Between
25 to 35
Edison
pounds.
and lower Chuckanut. And it's been there for 6 weeks.
So is Rydell up in BC, is that just migratory?
Rifle.
Is it rifle? Jersey rifle, right?
They,
Delta?
yeah, no, so they have resident sandhill cranes that nest
They
there.
do.
Yes. I was up there last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And so they've got a pair and a young one colt, like grown colt there. And then they have lots and lots of birds there because it's a reserve.
A fun place to go.
It's a great,
That's what I've heard.
it's wonderful. Because you can finally see the very close, the pintails and the region and the gadwalls. You can see how beautiful their feathers are. They have lots of shovelers there. And surprisingly enough, shovelers are smaller than
yeah.
mallards. I had no idea.
Really?
They're smaller than mallards. I thought they were large, but it's their bill that, messes you up. And they have interesting breeding, or feeding, things that they do. Shovelers go in a circle. So if they're out in the pond, you'll see them with their heads down, and they're going around in a circle. Like 8 of them, 4 of them, or 2 of them. I mean, they'll just go around and they're stirring up the water so that stuff comes up to the top.
Why they call shovelers?
Have you ever seen their bill?
No,
Oh my God.
I've never even seen one.
Well, it's enormous.
Okay.
It looks like a shovel.
Okay.
The birds are small and the bills
Bill
are
is
huge.
enormous, yeah. And the other birds that do that circling thing are phalaropes. They do that too. Okay, we're going to talk about diving ducks now. Not shovelers or
Scops.
not shovelers or phalaropes, but yeah. So we're talking about scops. Now there are lesser and greater scops. And generally I don't make a distinction about them because I don't care that much.
Thank
Um,
you.
But a scop is a scop, I'm like, that's a scop, and that's as far as I can go with it. But I can tell you some of the details of how you tell them apart. Okay, the males have those gray backs and black fronts and backs. They're also called bluebills because they have blue bellies.
Is that only a breeding?
No,
Okay.
they're slightly blue and non-breeding. The females are brown with this white at the base of the bill. If you see a brown bird with white at the base of the bill, look around for the male because there are probably more scops there. The way you can tell the difference between the lesser and the greater is that, let me pull this up, though. To me, they look like birds. So I call them saddle shoes. They look like saddle shoes to me. When I look at the saddle shoe.
Yeah.
You know, saddle shoe. But if you look at a saddle shoe, it doesn't look like that at all, but that's what reminds me, oh, that's a scarf, I can tell it's.
So he has no idea what we're talking.
No,
Absolutely,
No.
it's it's
No.
like a lace up loafer with white and brown.
it's black,
Swap.
black on
Okay.
the ends and
Okay.
white, and white in the middle. And,
They haven't been worn since the 50s.
The brown is like a saddle and the
We got one. There you
toe
go.
and heel are white.
There you go.
Yeah, Google it.
Yeah.
so,
Kind of the era of stockings with seams.
Yeah.
yeah, and poodle skirts,
That's
Oh,
right.
that's right.
you probably didn't.
Are we gonna
Poodle
get little
skirts.
skirts or something?
No. So, let me just see. All right. Okay. So a greater scop is a little bit larger than a lesser scop. A greater scop has a lower head and it's more rounded. So there's less head above the eye than in a lesser scop. In a lesser scop, it has a more sudden forehead and there's more head above the eye and there's a little bit of a peak at the back. So these guys, I would say, are lesser scop because they have more head above the eye and there's a little bit of a peak at the back, but they have a very sudden forehead. And the greater scop doesn't have that sudden, because the head is rounder.
But what kind of scope would you recommend?
A
Close.
good one.
I know. So what, two
Well,
to 3,000 up?
oh, no, you know, we've got the scopes that we use, we have to use scopes that aren't that good because they have to be usable.
We have to
No,
keep it down to 40.
yeah, you have to, because when they did the original surveys,
Oh, I see.
they didn't have scopes
Got it.
that could see
Got it.
that well, so you had to identify what you could with the scope you had. So the ones that we got were Vortex, I believe, and I think they were like $700-800. They're the ones that Resources bought, you know, for us.
So on your own, what would you recommend?
Well,
Doing protocol.
the best one is Kowa.
Kowa?
KOWA.
Okay.
And you can get different ones, you can get larger ones and smaller ones. I like them a lot, they're not as expensive as Swarovski.
Okay.
But they are quite good, and the Vortex are really quite good too.
So you need to see how heavy it is for field work?
Right, and how heavy, and the, one of the important things about getting a good scope is to get a good sustain.
Yes, the tripod
A
makes a
tripod
big
that
difference.
is light
Yeah.
and adjustable and works well with the scope.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're gonna want to shop around for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and ask a lot of birders.
So it's not something you want to get online.
You can't, yeah, oh, yeah.
We
you
did,
can get
just have to
online.
know what
How do you
you're-
know if they fit them?
We got ours on eBay. That was great.
Yeah, and that's an eBay is a good place because these are gonna be birders that are probably upgrading. And they've already got it set up,
That makes
but
sense.
eBay also you can return. So, you know, almost anything online, you find out what you want and then go looking for it.
Got it.
I use Zeiss binoculars.
Yeah.
And they're generally 1,000 to 1,200. And on eBay, you can find them for $79.
And you can trust that? You can, that they're not
I do.
tops, really?
I do,
Huh.
because you look at their return policy, they say, you know, return it. And then and they also tell you the reason that they're selling it.
Yeah.
Lots of times,
Okay.
you know, I got this, or I traded that, or I didn't want this one. The one I got 10 by 42s because the guy didn't want 10 by 42s, with 8 by 42s. So he was just selling. So it worked well. Right.
Helps.
So here's the Harlequin duck. You can hardly mistake them for anything else.
Oh, wait, did you have a picture of the greater skunk?
No.
Okay.
No. Just know that they have a rounder head.
Now-
The other thing that you can tell on the greater scop, at the very end of the bill on a scop is a little black mark for the name. And on the greater scop, the nail is broader and thicker than on a lesser Scott, which you can barely see.
That makes it false.
That's what I've been doing for years.
30 years, right?
On change now.
But they
But
also,
you
you
can't,
can also find them on different locations.
yeah, greater Scott are generally in saltwater. Lesser Scott are generally in freshwater. But if you go up to Rifle, you probably could see them side by side. And then you could get a clue about how they're different. But look again, go to Google and do greater versus lesser Scott images. And then just go look through the images. Notice the nail on the end of the bill. Notice the head shape. Notice the southern forehead, the point at the back. You can't tell them from silhouette. At least my friends tell me that. Okay. So again, the harlequin, it's quite small. They hang out usually on rocks with mollusks. They like mussels and things like that. The females are very cute. Their little tails are cute. They're just little bill, a dainty kind of bill with steep forehead. These guys are amazing. They breed on inland streams. So I was going from the coast of California to inland over the coast mountains. And I was driving along and I looked at this stream and there's a pair of holler harlequins in this dry stream. And I was just stunned. It's like, oh, well, that's right. They breed in streams. Who knew?
There's a lot at Bowman Bay.
Well, I've seen them at Thunder Creek,
They're in
Yeah.
inland streams.
Yeah.
Where's Thunder Creek? Is it in?
up 20.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Yeah. They go up there, breed, and come back in winter here.
But it took me a while because I wasn't expecting it.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing to see it? Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so here's a stunner of a duck. This is a long-tailed duck.
Yeah.
They used to be called old spa. And, but they are gorgeous and magnificent. And this is their non-breeding plumage. This is their non-breeding.
What?
This is what you
Wow.
see in the winter. This is what we see.
You're right. What do they look like?
I'll show you.
Okay.
So, and this is the pair down here. But they can dive up to 250 feet as well. And you find them further out in the water. They like the channels. So about the only place that we see them is at the end of Tongue Point, which is at the end of Semyon Spit, in the channel between White Rock and Semyon, because there's a deep channel there. And they're out there usually by the channel marker, but sometimes they'll come up close to the dock and we're able to see them 20 feet away. And they're just stunners. They're just gorgeous.
We can see them in the outer parts of the Delaware Bay, not where we
Right.
do our surveys, but
Like,
You've
like
seen
what-
it?
What's the outer
Yeah.
parts?
the outer parts. If you go out to the end of the Swimish's
Channel,
point, I can't remember. the name
It's
of it now.
finished, but
Pardon?
The channel?
No, the Swimish's point.
oh, their point. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and put your scope out there, you can see.
Wow. Because I drive all the way up to Semyon.
So what you're looking for out there is you're looking for a mostly whitish, medium sized duck. And then when you get them in your scope, you can see the long tail, you can see the patterns. But they're just wonderful.
I know. and that's
So this is what they look like in breeding.
Really?
Isn't that amazing? They really change.
Almost a pigeon gill.
They tone it down, amazing, that's unusual.
Well, they're, as with, most female birds, they want to blend in.
Right.
And so the thing about why these birds turn to black and white in the winter, if you're sitting on the water and there's an overhead predator, you have a black back, you're gonna blend in with the water. If you're sitting on the water and you have white on the bottom and there's a predator underneath looking up at the sky, the theory is that they're not going to be able to distinguish that very well from the surface of the water in the sky. So, and there's the male and female. They feed mostly on aquatic invertebrates, including insects, crustaceans. They eat bivalves, fish, eggs, plant. They breed in ponds, streams, and other Arctic wetlands, and they winter on the open ocean or in large freshwater lakes. They're primarily pelagic. They really like open water a lot better than some of our other winter.
That white around the male's eye looks like an ice cream cone.
Does, and so now we're gonna look at the scoters. You guys have lots of scoters here.
First order.
Mostly certain.
Okay. So,
Occasionally. I'm not in our area, not where we want.
and white wing? Not much. Okay, so, the surf scoter is the medium scoter. The largest is the white wing. The surf is medium. It's 19 inches, about 2 pounds, not much. They look like clown birds. You can see where they breed and where they winter. They breed in the high Arctic and winter along the coasts. They are primarily bivalve eaters. They feed on freshwater invertebrates, especially the mollusks. Now, to distinguish a female surf scoter from a female white winged scoter is a trick, but I'll tell you how to do that. And lots of times, if the males are there, it's generally a lot easier to tell. But I'll show you in a little bit. They swallow these huge bivalves whole. And, but they do have a very strong bill and cracks in this. And so the male is entirely black except for a white patch on the back of the head and on the forehead. So I say they have a headlight and a tail. They have a white iris. They have a large bill, which is swollen on the top and truncated on the side, multicolored. And at a distance, it appears orange. So there's the male, and there are the females. They breed on shallow lakes in the forest and tundra, and they winter in shallow marine coastal waters, usually over pebbly sand bottom. There are a lot of them in Semiahmoo Bay and Birch Bay. The water there at high tide is no more than, and sometimes it's only 8 to 10.
The white scoter, where is it, where is that name from? Common names usually come.
I don't know. Let's worry about that. The females, if you look closely, have 2 white spots on their face. They have a white spot behind and below their eye, and they have a white spot that is shoved up against their bill. So the forward line of the surf scoter spot is distinct. It's shoved up right against the bill. So it's a straight line. And the back spot is more diffuse. And here's male and female. Do you see that line shoved right up against the bill? So in a white winged scoter, they have a white patch or a Nike swoosh by their eye. And they have a white stripe on their wing. Sometimes you can see the white stripe, sometimes you cannot. But the female, if you look at the female, they have 2 white spots on their head too. But the white patch is behind the eye and the white is at the base of a large bill, but it has a round. It's round, it's not flat, but it's the bill. Can you see that? And again, you can see where they breed in the upper Boreal, Canada, and Arctic, and they winter around here. We have quite a few white winged scoters.
There's tons of them in the South Zone.
Oh, I didn't know.
White wing.
And maybe their diet. So here's the male and the female. They have, so what's interesting about them is that they have feathers that come down over the bill. So that their bill doesn't look that big, but the gait goes all the way back.
Nice.
So the bill is actually huge, and they can take much larger mollusks than the surf scoters.
Feathers go over the bill,
They go right over the bill,
and
yeah,
the surf scoters, they don't.
they don't.
Interesting.
And the female, you can see that diffuse forward spot. Doesn't have a white edge, I mean, an edge to it, not a straight edge to it. Okay,
So that white, the wing
yeah,
it doesn't look like a stripe in these pictures, like.
right, it looks like a little spot.
Yeah,
But what it is if you see them flying, they have a huge white wing bar. Sometimes you can tell when they're flying. You see how far down the bill the feathers come?
Interesting.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
do they eat different things?
They eat
Surf
larger
scoters?
mollusks.
Larger mollusks.
Yeah. Because they're a larger overall bird. So here are the male surf scoter versus the white wing.
But they
Well,
don't,
you can see the white wing, white on wing.
they don't look that much bigger.
They're a little bigger, like an inch. And heavier.
Yeah, this Sibley said the white wing is 3.6 pounds and the surf is 2.1.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're bigger, but they're not dimensionally.
Not bigger. And the eye.
Yeah.
Big
So the surf scoter has a white eye, but the white winged scoter has the white slash.
Right.
I said it's like a comb or a nice
Yeah.
swoosh or something.
I wonder what genetically advantage feathers further down on the bill would be.
I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe the girls like it.
Maybe the girls like it.
yeah.
That really drives a lot of evolution.
Yeah.
And then we have the cute ones.
Yeah.
The black scoters are cute. They're definitely duck-like looking, very cute. The female has a white patch on its cheek. The male has an orange knob on its bill. Very sweet looking, very duck-like looking. Much smaller than the other scoters. Smaller bill. The female's dark brown cap. Or dark brown, dark cap, light cheek throat. The male's all black, yellow, orange. Knob on a black bill. They're very fun. We only see them very occasionally. That's it. So here they are all together. The black
Oh, yeah.
scoter, or no, this is the black scoter, male and female. So you can see,
What's an arboreal palm?
it's in the arboreal forest,
Okay.
which is Canada, virtually north of the plains.
Pretty much spruce forest.
Yeah. So here's a good comparison for you.
Oh, nice.
See the surf female has an edge.
The surf female has a, what did you say?
And the spot has an edge.
Oh, yeah,
Comes up
the way
against
it bumps up, yeah. But like which one is it with all, it's all feathers on the beak?
The white one.
The white wing, so if you were to have a skeleton, you know, without the wing, without the
Yeah.
feathers, their beak would look the same as ours.
Then they might.
It looks-
Although
The beak.
the gate goes all the way back here.
Okay, that's why you said they could eat bigger.
Yeah, and you notice their nostrils go through the bill.
Yes.
So yeah, so they're interesting birds.
So that's where they extract. Oh.
They may, I don't know that they do that. I know that the tubers. I'm not familiar with albatrosses. Okay. So now we're gonna look at some golden ones. common goldeneye has a black back. It's mostly white. Or if you look out there and see a duck that's mostly white and has a white round spot on its cheek. That's the male goldeneye. They're sexually dimorphic. The female looks like a bobblehead. It's brown and it's got this kind of helmet head on top of a neck. And of course, they both have golden eyes. The female goldeneye, common goldeneye, has a black beak with a yellow or orange tip. And the male is mostly white, with, of course, that black bill with a white circle. And they are cavity nesters. So they'll breed on lakes and ponds, little lakes inland, and try to find, a woodpecker hole or a rotten log or something. So they will breed in nest boxes if the hole is large.
Will they use a wood duck net?
If the hole is large enough, they will. So they do some interesting courtship behavior, which I'm going to show you here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So the boys, see, he's trying to show off with this girl. She might be in. She's following him.
Oh, yeah.
Look what I can do.
I think they're showing up for each other.
Yeah, it looks like they're
males.
showing off
Yeah.
the other
Well, of
male.
course they are. But the female, just like us, looks like they're not.
Yes.
They just swimming right past.
I'm not.
But they're sticking around.
Yeah.
And bobbing also.
They do. It's really fun to see them, out there in a tangle with each other. They do this, and they chase each other. I'm gonna go over here. Show this option of that.
Good.
So then there's the Barrow's goldeneye. It looks very similar to the common goldeneye, except it has a crescent on its face instead of a round spot. And if you'll notice, the way that I learned this
Yeah.
bird, it has barrels on its back. So those little barrels. It has much more black in it than it has white. The common goldeneye is mostly a white bird. This one has a lot of black. And the female, again, way you tell them is that they have an orange beak with a black tip, whereas the common has a black beak. Again, they're cavity nesters. So here are, can you tell me what's there?
The female pharaohs.
Common,
Common,
on the right,
on the
Common
right,
pair.
the female, and on the left is the
Barrows.
female.
Female barrows, yeah.
Look like ducks to me.
Yeah, they do. They look like ducks. They are ducks.
It's very cool being able to tell the
Them are ducks.
difference.
The shark.
So I see the difference with the male, the barrows on the back.
This, no,
This is, I know, this is a
common,
common, so you don't see those barrows. That's cool.
and you see all white.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So why so low in the water? What's that?
they're diving ducks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also, you'll see them a lot of times hanging around pilings because they will strip the mussels off of the pilings.
Oh.
They love mussels.
Oh.
That so I don't know if you've seen them around.
Well, that explains why if you walk the Queen's Trail, you see them down where there's those abandoned houses, and you don't see them up by Love. We were just talking about that the other day. I mean, that's how interesting conversation.
Well, you know, that's really nice. I like that.
Yeah.
At my house, it's like,
So when,
is that the round ball or the pointy ball?
so how,
Big day for you yesterday.
how do they know when the mussels are not good on red tide? That's the first thing.
I'm not sure that their digestive can't handle
Yeah, they
it. I mean, they may have a different digestive.
Okay.
system. I've never looked into that, but you could certainly. do
It makes sense that they could handle it, I'm not sure.
that. Google would know.
Would it?
Oh,
you
yeah.
trust Google.
I do.
Every-
It was the best thing that ever happened in my life because as a child, I read encyclopedias. And I would go from, I would read something and I wouldn't understand it, so I'd go to the next encyclopedia.
Yeah.
You know, that, oh, I had to go look that up. And then
Yeah.
I mean, I was down in rabbit holes when I was 6 or 8. But anyway,
It is,
so,
any people that think that older people don't like the internet, I'm like, are you kidding?
yeah,
That's why we
Yeah.
forget everything.
I know.
We have to keep
It's,
looking it up.
I think that out of the World Book.
yeah. World Book was my favorite.
Yeah.
I didn't like Encyclopedia Britannica, didn't have pictures.
That's too small.
Yeah, that too. Bufflehead is our smallest diving duck. And mostly it's white. You look out there and see. And they are just,
Oh, Arctic true cats. Oh, right.
what?
You're breeding true cats.
Yeah, they're cavity nesters.
They are so successful.
And they're just funny when you see a group of them together. The males are randy all the time. I mean, they're just always
Yeah.
fighting with each other, chasing them. The demons are like, wait, leave me alone. So you can see the non-breeding, they cover the entire United States. And in breeding, they're up in the arboreal. Very cute. You find them on saltwater or fresh.
They're my hunting dog's favorite bird in the water to watch, because they're nuts, they just.
Right.
all the time.
They do make a lot of splash.
They are by far our most popular.
Most common.
That's common.
Yeah.
Are they?
They're
Well,
common
yeah.
by far.
Couldn't keep chicken head, right?
Yeah.
But they're pretty good golden.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're in the same family.
Yeah, kind of.
I think so. Okay, any other questions about?
Oh, that's really, it's so much more popular, more successful than so many of the other tree cavity nesters and Arctic boreal forest nesters.
Well, it's possible that they use smaller
Smaller houses.
cavities.
Yeah.
And
Do they-
can find more.
Do they?
They might. They might. You know, wood
It's just
ducks,
incredible.
I mean, wood ducks will lay 18, 20 eggs. And then a hood of merganser will pop in there and dump her eggs too. So the poor female's got, you know.
Yeah.
Tons, you know. And yeah, they'll do that.
They'll
They'll
use
jump
each
in
other.
each other's nests.
They will.
Well, they
I
have such
think
a
that's the
hard
smartest
time
strategy.
finding evidence.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the best reproductive strategy is the cowbird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you just dump your egg and leave.
Oh,
Yeah.
It takes a village.
that's why I shoot the trees.
Oh, they
Cowards.
gotta make a living time.
I've got a coward.
You don't like them.
I hate cowards.
What do you hate?
Cowards.
Oh, cowards.
Got a personal vendetta.
I guess,
I do.
yeah.
They aim for warblers. right?
Yeah.
Well, they're awful, but I don't think you can make an indent on the population.
It's sort of like our state plan to kill barred owls to save the spotted owl.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, people, never mind.
Well,
No,
don't get
no,
started.
I'm
just
with-
on the
I'm with you.
spotted owl
Yeah.
territories.
But who knows, now that might change.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna look at mergansers now.
And screech owls.
Okay.
So, the common merganser, it's very large, very mostly white, with a green head, a big orange bill, and these bills are serrated because they're fish eaters. They can grab those fish, those slippery fish, and they go into them. They mostly eat fish, but they also eat aquatic invertebrates, mollusks, crustaceans, worms, and they're divers, frogs, small mammals, birds, and plants. And this is the female and the non-breeding fish. So males will look like this, and they are also cabins. So but they're very large birds. So they find a pretty big cavity, and I think sometimes they use logs.
We, last year, were camping along the Metcalf River.
Mm.
And we saw a
Oh,
pair of those
Right.
flying up, down, and up, and down. Just, I mean, must have been dozens and dozens of times looking for a tree and a cabin.
Probably.
And, I don't know whatever happened, they were still looking at the time.
Well, I saw
Days.
up the Chewig River.
Yeah.
I saw babies on the river.
Oh, good,
So
good.
they must have.
Wonderful. I was thinking, I'm going to bring a nest box next time I go.
Make sure it has a great big hole.
Oh, you just find it online, size and shape.
Put in merganser online. So these guys, so these hoods, they can control these hoods. They can go down, they can go up,
Yeah.
they can look flat. But they're pretty stunning looking ducks. And they mostly hang out on ponds. Occasionally, when the ponds freeze, we'll see a lot of these different ducks in Semiahmoo Bay and Drake. They'll come down to the salt water because there's all ponds of those, the lakes that are in. So
now,
so we see different birds now. And then this is the red-breasted merganser, the punk hairdo. The males are generally that darker color. They lighten up a little bit in the wintertime. The females are brown with that punk hairdo. Again, that long, thin orange bill. And in the bottom, you can see they do courting, they do curtsies.
Oh, look at that.
So like the other ones. What was the one?
agreed.
Yeah, no,
No, who was it?
no, it was
Nancy.
the common golden idol.
Oh, that was
Oh, yeah.
Tipping
putting
his
the
head
head
back.
back, yeah.
Yeah, so this is akin to that, only it's a curtsy. Instead of throwing their head back, they go into the water and stick their head out. Okay.
In brush.
And I would suspect that the common merganser and those larger birds will also nest in a brush pile using a cabin. Go look a little bit at the alcids. We don't get to see those fish. We occasionally will see pigeon guillemots out at the end of Ton Pond.
Oh, you mean where you are, because
Where?
we have a lot.
Yeah, I bet you have lots here. But we'll see a pigeon guillemot up with the long-tailed ducks, and that's about it. We don't see any of the other ones. But they fly through the water, and they all feed on fish, mostly forage fish, crustaceans, and marine invertebrates. So the common mer, one egg on a rock shelf. So they're very dicey reproductive strategy. Again, it has a point, so it rolls around because there's nothing else on that rock shelf. And then there's a little family. In the summertime, they're all dark with that white line coming from the eye. In the wintertime, they again go into dark and light for protection, probably camouflage, and then in a dark line. They're quite large, 15 to 18 inches.
Sort of remind me of
Sort of, yeah. They've got a pretty substantial bill there.
when we first,
I don't see them often enough to be able to recognize.
we first started sailing in the San Juans and early nineties, that was the most common bird in
Mm.
Central. Now,
The most. You would see
Most
that
common.
there was-
most common,
Mm.
common. Now,
And then a pigeon guillemot, in the summer, they're black and white. Predominantly black with that white splash on them. And in the winter, they are mottled, black, white, red, green.
Mhm.
Looking. They're
Okay.
smaller, quite a bit smaller.
I think they're changing that. Seems like you can start to see that white patch.
Oh, you must see tons of yellow.
Usually we do, but this year I'm just starting to see them. Usually they're there all the time. So,
and when they're breeding, they open their mouths wide and they've got bright red inside their
Right,
mouths.
that matches their feet,
And they display that. too.
yeah,
Oh, it's so pretty.
and they nest in cliffs. And they dig a burrow, 6 or 8 foot burrow, and 1 to 2 eggs in a crevice or a burrow.
One of the biggest,
So Whidbey Island has a big nest.
Bendovi, the rock jetty around the harbor
Mm.
has the biggest colony I've seen anywhere.
Where is that?
Bendovi Island?
And it'll be-
and Strawberry Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a whole side faces,
That's breeding,
where they,
On the cliff just out.
and there's none.
yeah, I can't see around the corner though.
They're out there.
Which strawberry?
Strawberry,
Which one?
Strawberry is off of Cypress.
Okay.
Kind of on the south side of Strawberry.
Okay.
Oh,
And then the marbled murrelet, brown is a tiny bird. It's just a little larger than a robin. And they have the diciest reproductive strategy. They have to go find a wide limb that's horizontal, that has moss growing on it, because they lay their egg in that. And 200 years ago, old growth forest was down at the shore. And we have eliminated all the old growth forest up to 30 to 50 miles from the shore. So they will fly from this tree that they lay their egg in 30 to 50 miles in the morning and bring the fish back, and 30 to 50 miles in the evening and bring the fish back to feed their babies. They lay 1 egg. That's that.
I've heard that they breed. Does anybody?
Well, we have them in, do you see them?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah, and
You see them in summer?
yes, on Burroughs Bay, and I kayak down
Yeah.
to.
And is there old growth?
Roman all the time.
Is there old growth?
Oh, old goat, no, they don't, no.
They're
No,
not
they're probably
breeding?
coming back from nesting, so probably not seeing them early summer, I just.
I've heard that
Because you
they
can see them at
breed.
Washington Park
Yeah,
at the end of out at the point.
Green Point.
So that's called. Because I keep telling people, it's out there, you go as far as you can, you go down the stairs.
Yeah, that's Green Point.
Yeah, what you're gonna find is marbled murrelets and the only crust. The only rock,
Like.
no, the only rock that's here. Every other rock you see around here is not from here. It's from the Canadian rock.
oh, yeah,
Every rock.
this is serpentinite and it's.
Yeah, that,
Glommed on from,
that rock that you see at Washington Point is the only rock.
not only that,
that's
it's
here.
from the mantle. It is the oldest.
It's the oldest rock.
It's the oldest.
And there's also some of that on the island, that's just out from there.
Cypress.
Yeah, but that's the only place you can see that around here.
So the
Because-
birds.
No.
Okay.
This is a total aside.
This is the alley.
Smart
The
birds.
plants.
Yeah,
That's also where you always see Harlequin,
yeah, on
See
the
where-
rocks.
Green Point.
Yeah, they like rocks.
Say harlequins?
Yeah.
seen him at the section.
it's just, when I tell people that, I said, while you're down there, look at the rock, that's mantle rock.
Yeah.
So,
In fact, that's why you'll see Indian green fern, because it likes the
Serpentinite.
the minerals,
yeah.
Indian green fern,
Looks like a carrot leaf.
But
They're
it's
short.
It's a dimorphic, I mean, it's got different male and female.
male plants, like the deer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an ancient murrelet, and an ancient murrelet is very small also. And in this summer, they're not a lot different than they are in winter. But they're tiny, and we don't see them, but if you take a boat out from Birch Bay over towards the island that's out there, there's a shelf out there and they hang. And I had a friend at the boat invite me.
I'm sure it's worse.
Yeah. In a burrow or falling on. Here are rhinoceros auklet. They grow that little horn during breeding and leave it during non-breeding. 15 inches. Again, one egg in a burrow on forested islands, usually in colonies of the east and west.
One egg,
Yeah, just one.
and yet seem so successful.
Are there lots of rhinoceros? You see those around here?
Oh, we definitely see them, but not in rafts, like we used to.
Who's the predator? Ducks.
Eagles.
Eagle.
We had an eagle carrying a duck land on our deck railing last week.
Oh,
On your deck.
oh.
Didn't on the railing.
What kind of a duck?
Couldn't see it long enough. It was just a dark, it looked like a dark color.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it long enough.
It's a dead duck.
A dead duck.
Did he sit there and eat it, or did he
No,
just
it-
take
it-
it? Right.
Looked around, probably looking to make sure nobody was gonna steal it, and then
Yeah.
took off, and didn't see where it went, but there's neighbors have a tree where they usually go, but I didn't see it.
Interesting.
Wow, pretty amazing.
Yeah, my
It was
neighbor
immature.
had an eagle come into her yard and she had let the chickens out. And this chicken went behind a tree, through some brush, and hid like behind the chicken house. And this eagle went right after it and brought it right out.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the movement, they see the movement.
I don't know,
Any kind of.
but it was right behind this huge fir tree,
Yeah.
underneath these shrubs, way back in behind and it brought it right out. And I was like, oh.
The owls do that too,
Oh.
any kind of movement for a mouse ring. It's
Right.
just A whisker that moves it.
They can hear it.
The dog.
Okay.
But didn't have anything.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cover just a few of the gulls.
Oh, good.
Gulls are easy. They are easy, I promise you. I didn't bring it, but I have the gullibility chart.
That's cute.
What's your gullibility? You can find it online. And so basically around here, these are the only ones that we have in our area. They're about the only ones you have in your area. I mean, once in a while we'll get a California gull and everything, but basically the Bonaparte's gull we have in summer. We see a few of them. Now, interestingly enough, they nest in an open cup of twigs placed in a tree or bent over rushes. These guys nest in trees. Kind of like wood ducks, right? So weird.
Right around here. Oh, boreal tornadoes,
Yeah.
but also eastern, like, Mount area too.
Marshes and whatnot. And in the wintertime, they have a white head with that little black dot behind. They have black wingtips. So the way the key to gulls are their wingtips, their bills, and their legs. This is how you can tell them apart. Okay. This is a short-billed gull. It's probably our smallest gull. No, the next smallest. Bonaparte's is the smallest.
Yeah.
The next smallest is the short-billed gull. And it has black wingtips, it has yellow legs, and it has a short yellow bill with nothing on it. No spots, no rings, no nothing. And,
When do we see that?
we see them at wintertime in parking lots.
Yeah, we see them down on,
We got quite a
Burroughs
few
Bay.
during our last,
Okay.
survey.
Yeah, we see a lot of short-billed gulls, and on our chart, I think it still says mute gull.
It does.
Exactly.
really,
I like that because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Really
they
don't
need
want
to
to
change
see
it
it.
because if you look in your eye, I mean, I fell into that trap. You go,
Yeah.
you know, like if you look at, you're not gonna find new go, it's it.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, dang it.
And then the next,
And what is, the short bill is the mew?
yes, Mew.
Yeah.
No.
Its old name was Mew.
And it's,
And,
it's a real smaller one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smaller than most of the gulls we have.
And I think they called it that because of how it called.
It's probably Mew.
And they,
Yeah.
that's
But
so
what,
nice.
the reason that they did that is because they kept the Mew gull name for a different species. If you like.
I know it. They,
So-
they got to keep their name and
Yeah.
we get to change ours.
Yeah. So there you have it. The next largest one is a ring-billed gull. Again, you look at they have black wingtips and they have yellow feet.
Yellow. Oh, in the
Yellow
winter.
legs,
In the winter.
all of them.
Oh, it's orange.
Well, yellow, orange, and they have a black ring around their bill in the winter and the summer. The eye also has an orange ring about it. You know, I have those color, I have one of those color village shirts. I'll bring it in, so I'll show it to you. So they breed in colonies on the ground near water and laid in a hollow in the ground, sometimes lined with grass and debris. So our largest gull, huge. Now the short-billed gulls look cute. They look like a golf. They have a golf ball for a head with a little bill. But the glaucous-winged gull is just this ugly, enormous gull. It has not black wingtips. If you see a gull that doesn't have black wingtips around here, it is always a glaucous.
Was
They
it
have
as
very
part of the
poor
forest?
manners. I used to work at a highway
They do have four.
downtown, and they would take sandwiches right out of people's hands. Get the hell out of here. They're big birds.
They have pink legs.
Pink legs. And they
So
have-
these are 4-year gulls. It takes them 4 years to grow the plumage. The ring-billed gull, I think, is a 3-year gull. The short-billed gull is a 3-year gull. It takes them, so they start out dark. So the juvenile starts out dark with a black bill. And as it gets lighter and lighter and the bill gets less and less black, those are the years. And I'll show you on my chart. I'll bring the chart in and show it to you. And so then the other gull that we have, we do not, do you guys have Western gulls here? We generally don't have Western gulls here. What we have is a hybrid.
Yeah,
So on the peninsula, they call it an Olympic gull. It's a hybrid glaucous wing Western cross. It has black wingtips, but it doesn't have the dark gray back of a Western. It has a light gray back. You see how light that is?
Yeah.
And how dark that is. And the juveniles are dark. And they're also 5-year gulls. They
now,
also have pink legs.
the glaucous wing has a real distinctive ugly voice.
Yeah.
Does the hybrid also? And what about a western voice?
I would think that they're probably different
So why do we have hybrids?
because they,
Well, obviously, but I mean, I wonder.
because
Because they're
they,
very similar.
yeah, well, they're the
Size.
same, with the same family and like a mule and a horse, they're able to crossbreed.
Okay.
There are some passerines that do that too. Townsend's warblers breed with. It's the other warbler. But anyway, they have, and I've seen a mallard pintail.
Oh, yeah, the mallards are.
They'll breed with anybody, right?
Yeah, they.
Yeah. And then the other one we have here is a Heerman's gull.
Yeah.
You guys get those?
In
Yes.
the summer.
Yeah, in late summer, August. So they breed in Southern California. and then they come up here and then they move into their non-breeding. I only see them at the ferry dock at Kingston or Edmonds. But they like to hang out on the islands there. And I see them in the late summer there. So the way you can tell them, they have black wingtips, but they have an orange bill, not a yellow bill. And again, you know, on the western gull and the glaucous swing, they have that red dot on the bottom, and you all know what the red dot is for, right?
But does it stay?
Yeah, yeah, so how they feed their babies is they regurgitate food. And so the baby will peck at the red dot, and that's the signal to the mom, to the adult to feed. A California gull has a black and a red. So that, and it has yellow legs. So I'll bring that chart, and so you guys, you'll see it's not as hard as you think. Okay, there we go. On to the Caspian terns. You guys have those here?
Anything else on the hieroglyphs as far as an ID? They seem to be, they're more slender, aren't they?
They are, and they're smaller. And look at the shape of the bill. It is that rounded kind of orange shape
There's
with
a
the
lot
black
of those on
tip.
Cypress, like strawberry.
And
strawberry
Tide Point has a ton of.
Okay. So do you guys get Caspian terns?
And
Yes,
we wouldn't possibly see them.
Padilla Bay in the
Padilla.
summertime.
Okay. So a Caspian tern is a pretty amazing bird.
Yeah, girls.
And if you hear one, if you ever hear one, you'll never forget it. You will always be able to ID it. It sounds like a cat on fire.
I keep,
Have you heard Caspian?
All
All
I
right.
keep waiting to hear the babies following the parents in about August or so. You can hear the babies, it's very different.
So they sound like a cat on fire.
That's, no, that is the baby.
Oh.
That little baby peep after in
Yeah.
August starts following the parents. And saying,
That. And that. They keep going.
oh, it's not even
So it's like I said, it's like a cat on fire. I mean, you can't miss it.
So how does something like that evolve, Jack?
How does anything, how
I
did we get here?
mean, is that just to warn the rest of the flock that there's predators? I mean, that's a horrible.
No, that's their
No, that's their call.
What's the call for?
Well, calls generally, so they're, the way that birds communicate is usually two different ways. One is a song, which is generally a courtship or territorial sound. The other is a call. They're very, very different. Like for a chickadee, their song is dee, 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 and they're telling, you know, the other males or females, free sex over here. And so that's what territorial and courtship songs are for. Calls are to let you know what's going on.
Okay,
Chickadee,
yeah,
chickadee, chickadee, dee, 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 dee.
right.
So the more D's there are, the chickadee is the alarm bell of the forest.
Yeah.
The more D's they are, the more you know there's a predator or some big thing that they
Interesting.
don't like. And if they're mobbing in an area, you can probably find an owl or a predator.
And then the
Sharp and
squirrels take it up and
Yeah.
robin.
But they listen, and the calls are also, you know, chickadee or chickadee. So with chestnut-back chickadees, they do chicken, chicken, D, D. But the black or the black-cap chickadees, they go chickadee D, chickadee D. And so they're like, hi Fred, oh hi Mabel, you got any food over there? Yeah, it's not bad. You know, so it's just they're just keeping track of each other.
Thank you, that helps.
Call versus song. So the Caspian tern, this is I've not read any studies about them, but I expect that they probably have different kinds of calls, but that grading call is something they do in flight.
Yeah.
They dive into the water, go down, get a fish, and they come back and they feed it to their mate. And they do it, they're kind of very interesting.
It's a great whale call. Gray whales are rolling on the beach, don't get on that beach.
Yeah, well, maybe,
But
yeah,
compared to gulls, they are just beautiful players.
they are,
They're very acrobatic and,
they're terns, yeah,
yeah, exactly.
which is why terns fly like that, you know.
Do they
But-
flock together like some of these?
Well, they're colony nesters,
Okay.
and we have a huge colony nesting in our old BP,
Oh,
or GP, sorry. And the city hazed them out of there because they didn't want them breeding there.
I think they were breeding on some roof in Everett.
Yeah,
And would come up here, and I think they lost most of the colony. during the heat.
yeah, they breed on roofs in Bellingham. Flying back and forth. So, and then the one that I did put in here, the one shorebird, because we have lots, is the oyster catcher, and they have a very distinctive call. You guys are familiar with their
Oh,
call?
yeah.
A friend calls them the motorcycle gang.
Yeah, and they eat mollusks, especially mussels and limpets.
Yeah.
And they nest in a simple scrape in the ground, and so we had, when I first started watching birds, about 15 years ago, there was a pair at Semillon, and they nested at the base of the cormorant colony. And now we have like regularly 6 to 8 of them hanging out. So it's pretty fun. Okay, so then, birding ethic for walkers, boaters, and kayakers. Promote the welfare of birds and their environment. Be careful not to approach birds too closely. Respect laws and rights of others, including private property. Minimize disturbances to nesting species and resting species like shorebirds. Birds resting and feeding on sandbars or mudflats should not be disturbed. Keep your dog away from them. Pick up fishing line. If you see it, dispose fishing line, nets. I have had to rescue birds stuck in nets. If you're fishing and you catch a bird by accident, really carefully. Be very careful about removing the line because the birds can hurt you. Keep your boat in good repair. Don't feed birds or other wild animals from the boat.
The
And
fishing line also, the orioles included in
Yes,
their nest,
they
and then
do.
the babies get stuck
Stuck in it,
inside.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
get their feet tangled in the nest and just.
die. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, we've seen oriole nests up at Glen Remeter. So this is why I go double crested cormorant. It's called a double crested cormorant.
Oh, look at that photo.